as the new team president, making him the first black president of an NFL team. Wright will be responsible for leading the organization's business divisions, including operations, finance, sales, and marketing. And now we are so honored to welcome in the man himself, the new president of the Washington football team, Jason Wright. Jason, thank you so much for being here. And I want to start. Applause is absolutely necessary. Congratulations. This is huge, not only for you, but the entire organization, the entire sports world. So I want to ask you, what does it mean for you to be part of this new era in Washington?
For me, first of all, it's personal, right? I've been playing football since I was 7 years old. I'm a football player at heart, and formed all of my leadership experiences. My first few years in the league, getting cut every other day, just trying to make a team, and eventually becoming a team captain and playing for a long time, and then cutting my teeth as a business thinker and an analytic thinker, and having those two things come together is real personal for me. And then add to that the fact that there's a demographic aspect of this for black folks, and that's a really positive thing as well. And so it's the icing on the cake. So I'm just really happy to be jumping in right now.
Well, first of all, congratulations, my man. Very happy for you. I'm very pleased with two moves that Daniel Snyder has made recently, hiring Julie Donaldson as the senior VP for media and broadcasting for the team. I've known her for many years, and I think she's going to do an absolutely sensational job. And then to bring in you, I think it's a huge plus for the organization. Having said all of that, I want to know specifically what can you lay it out for everybody? What are your responsibilities going to be, and what are you going to have final say on? Because a lot of times, particularly in the NBA, African Americans get the titles, but they don't have final say. And with Daniel Snyder, some people would assume nobody's going to have final say when it comes to working for him. So what exact responsibilities and authority are you going to have?
I love the real question. So I'll try to keep it real simple. Coach Rivera oversees everything on the football operations side. Everything that happens on the field with players, with player personnel, that's him all day long. Everything that's focused, and it's about winning, and it's about getting to the Super Bowl. On my side, it's about creating a business that is expanding the value of the franchise, all the business operations, et cetera. But I have full remit over that. I can put people in role that I want to put in role. I can guide our business decisions how I see fit, the same way that Coach Rivera is able to manage everything on the player personnel side. So these are two true chief executive roles managing two sides of the business.
I want to ask you about being the first African-American team president. On the one hand, it's a great day, right? Because it represents, in a way, inclusiveness, and it's also good for business. If you eliminate a huge percentage of the population, Stephen A. brought up women or people from different racial or ethnic backgrounds, you're doing yourself a disservice because you're at a competitive disadvantage eventually if you limit that pool of qualified candidates. On the other hand, we're in 2020. And this is not like when Obama was elected in 2008, the president of the United States, that's one position. There are lots of team president jobs, and we're in 2020, and it took until now for this to happen. Can you talk about your feelings about that? Obviously, a great day on the one hand, and on the other hand, embarrassing in a way. Do you care to comment on that?
Yeah, man, I'm being an optimist on this, right? What I like about it are a couple things. And first, I'd be remiss if I didn't note that the current commissioner of the Big Ten, Kevin Warren, was the COO of the Vikings and basically did this role in everything but title only. So the proverbial glass ceiling had a lot of cracks.
Hey, it's all here right now. Come on.
But what I like about this is that there's so many players and to be able to see leadership not just on the player side of the ball, on the football side of the ball, but also the business side of the ball, that looks like you, that has had a similar background and set of experiences, can only be a net positive for the overall football ecosystem. But also it's a good
of a season than any of the greatest scores in NBA players
now. But again, I think the fact that I'm black is secondary to, and the fact that Coach Rivera is Latinx and Julie Donaldson is a woman, and all of the decisions that the Snyders have been making, the fact that we are demographically exciting is secondary to the fact that we're the best qualified candidates for the role. And that's what I'm most excited about. The diversity is a plus, and it's going to help us make better decisions.
I appreciate that very much, and I get where you're coming from. But I still got to go back to my original question in this regard. Ron Rivera was hired as the head coach for the Washington football franchise. By the way, do me a favor, find a name, please. Just have it saying the Washington football franchise. Dan Snyder, who I know a little bit. Dan
Yeah,
Snyder,
who could have seen this coming?
let me just say this. Dan Snyder, that's corny. Come up with a damn name. The Washington football franchise. You don't even have DC in it for crying out loud.
You're going to have to wait, man. You're going to have to wait, bro.
I'll wait for that. I'll wait for that. But come up with a name, okay? Having said all of that, here's my question. Ron Rivera is the coach. You are a team president with obviously an astute business background, and I have no doubt that you're going to do a great job and hire who the hell you want to hire. Do your thing. But who's going to run football? What I mean by that is Ron Rivera's coaching. Is he also the GM? Is he going to be making player personnel decisions? Who's that guy?
Yeah, Coach Rivera has oversight over everything on the football side. And so, to be determined how all the roles shake out, or if there's a GM, if there's not. I haven't made any decisions around that yet. But it's Coach Rivera's show. It's Coach Rivera's show. So, player decisions all the way down to strategy, who he puts on the scouting staff, all of that are his decisions to make.
I know this predates your hire, but to pick up where Stephen A. started, if not left off, the fact that the team doesn't have a name, when anyone could read the writing on the wall and see, well, this name, it can't last forever. It's not like you're looking around for another derogatory name for Native Americans. It can't be as head of business. It can't be good for your brand to not have a name. What is the delay I know you just got there, but why do you say it might be a minute before you guys have a name?
Well, I think it's a really important decision, right? So it's not just about a name or a logo. It's actually about an identity. And whatever we go down and whatever we choose is going to inform not just what we put on our jerseys and put on our helmets, but it's going to inform how we shape the fan experience, what we do charitably in the communities. It's going to be a new way of engaging with the world, a new narrative from the club. And so, something like that, it needs to take some time. And you need to put the right effort into it. And most importantly, we need to engage our fans, engage our players, engage our staff, engage our sponsors, so that it is a community decision to launch this new identity. I think that's really important.
Well, let me say this. Let me give you a suggestion. Washington Warriors. It ain't that difficult. Washington Warriors will work. Try it. It might work. It's catchy, okay? And make sure D.C. is in there, because there's a state that's named Washington, by the way. I mean, make sure D.C., the nation's capital, is in there. Do something like that.
If it doesn't work, though, can I send you a bill?
Yes, you can. Yes, you can. No problem. No problem. Now here's my question to you. I'll take it. I'll take it. And ask Julie. She'll know what to do. She'll come up with a name. But let me ask you this last question. Let me get to the football field again. You say Super Bowl. Y'all haven't won a Super Bowl since 1991. Ain't been back. Ain't even been an NFC championship game. So when we look at this team right now, moving forward, as you dissect what's going on, how big of a role do you feel overseeing the business side of matters will positively affect this franchise on the football field? Because it's nice to have you in there, and I have no doubt that you and Julie can do the job. But in the end, if the team stinks, hey.
I mean, I don't know what you know about Coach Rivera, but he's a pretty fantastic coach.
He's good. He's good.
Yeah, and there's a great young talent on the squad. And I feel great about the trajectory that's happening over there. I think we do have an impact. Not as much as the players on the field, but we do have an impact on how they operate. One thing we can do right away is make sure that all the stuff we do around business operations is structured in a way that allows the team to focus across the week. And that's something that I have a feel for as a former player, knowing the times when it's good to bring players into community and charitable stuff and sponsors, and when it's not. We know how to give players a voice in what we do in facing the community, and that's going to expand our brand and expand our value. So there are things that we can absolutely do that are going to make it better, but ultimately it's the guys between the lines, and it's the coaches and the strategy and all that. It'd be silly to say we have the ability to drive that in a real way.
You mentioned earlier that the important thing is that the most qualified candidates got the job. It's not that a black man, a woman, various members, you said, that of demographic representation got these jobs that are diverse. It's that the most qualified candidates got the jobs. How much do you think our current situation as a country, especially with the conflagration after the George Floyd murder, in the face of this pandemic and recession. How much do you think that opened up this opportunity, particularly when Dan Snyder had obstinately refused to change the name, and then such economic pressure was brought to bear that he buckled and had to change the name, and now suddenly we see demographic installation of diverse demographic representation in these important positions, making him or rehabilitating his image in that way. I'd like your thoughts on that if you have them.
Yeah, well, maybe I can just tell you the kind of conversations that Dan, Tanya, and I had leading up to this. We didn't talk about race. We didn't talk about, civil rights. We didn't even really talk about my research on racial equity and stuff that I've done previously, which is an area of passion of mine. We talked about disruptive technologies and how they can expand the business. We talked about financial operations. We talked about what it means to build a great stadium. And we did touch on equity a bit there, and doing a stadium with equitable principles that gets capital into all parts of the D.C., Maryland, Virginia community in a way that boosts economic development. But we talked about business. We talked about doing the role. We talked about culture. We talked about, setting things right where they need to be set right in the organization. We talked about charting a new course, having a new public narrative about the club. We didn't talk about like, hey, man, it's really good that you're black. That's going to help me. That didn't come up. And so, insofar as I see my mandate for the role based on those conversations, it's about business. And the fact that I'm black, I will be unapologetically black throughout my tenure in this role. So it'll show up, but it's not the lead here.
And Jason, how do you personally plan on going about making sure that the behavioral and the harassment allegations that led to the investigation into the franchise never happen again to any woman within the organization?
Yeah, so one of the things that gave me a lot of confidence in taking this role, and I've done this sort of work with other organizations in my previous job. The first thing that the team decided to do was bring in this internal investigator, independent internal investigator. And that's critical. And it's actually a really big step because you are opening the curtain to see all the big uglies that exist across the organization around culture. And that's a really bold first step. And that gave me confidence that there was real commitment to getting this done. I don't know the details yet. I start next Monday. But no matter where the starting point is, if it's better or worse,